also the Visual Studio. Okay, now it's all congruent.
Perfect.
Okay, so back to business. Before, as I understand this exercise, every number should output either a number or a fizz or a buzz or a fizz buzz. So I would create a function called give me fizz buzz number, and then it says this is the number that I want to work with, and then it says the following: for multiples of 3, print fizz, and for multiples of 5, print buzz, and for numbers which are multiples of both 3 and 5, print fizz buzz. All right. Just to make it a little bit less annoying for the eyes, I like to have numbers like this. So, for the time being, forget the 1 to 100 bit. I just want to know, what am I printing? So, you say, if the number is divisible by 3, or is a multiple of 3, how do we do this? Anybody want to tell me? We learned this already.
Modulus 3 triple equals 0.
One more time.
Number modulus 3 equal to 0.
Correct. And then what do we do?
Print, you have to return, you have to print fizz.
Console.log fizz.
I think, yes, you could do console log, but I remember I told you let's avoid the console logs. What we can do instead is we can return something. We have a number. So you say either a number or a string. So let's say let result equals 0 equals number, sorry. And then if number equals 3, then the result equals what? If it's divisible by 3,
Fizz.
fizz. If it's divisible by 5, what are we doing here, guys?
Else if number divided by 5 equals to.
Right?
Equals to buzz.
Now, at this moment, what I will do is I will not finish this function. And we leave it here. Okay? So what we will do is now we say, give me fizz buzz number of 10, let's say. And then this is the result. And then what we do is here we can do a console log. So remember, if you're doing console logs, you're allowed to do them anywhere you want, but it's preferable to do it outside the function. So you say console log, the number is result. So what's going to happen here now? Let's start with 1, okay?
Function nothing return.
It has no return, correct. So actually, we have a problem. Nothing will happen here at all. The number is, and it will just have like undefined maybe. So let's see if that's true. So I am now going to test what happens. The number is undefined. So as Victoria has pointed out, we're not returning anything. So that's your first problem. So what do we do?
We should return result.
Okay. So then it will happen, something will happen. So we say get fizz buzz number of 1. And it says, sorry, this is annoying. Yeah. Number is nothing. Why did it do that?
We have when we initialized it.
We have initialized it, but we initialized it to this thing. So obviously we will return nothing. So let's call it, I mean, just to make it like more obvious, it will look like this. Okay? Now, what do we actually want? When you say give me FizzBuzz number of 1, what should it actually return? Hello? Anyone home? Don't be scared, I don't bite.
It should be either fizz or buzz, the result kind of. Or
Well,
fizz.
actually, for 1,
It should
return the number.
it
Return
should
the
just
number.
return the
You should
number.
get number 1.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it says create a function press number for 1. It's basically from 1 to 100, whatever it is, it will be the number itself, prints the number, except for those cases. So what we actually want when the number is not divisible by 3 or 5 is the actual number. That's what we want. So let's do that. The number is 1. All right. So what if we want get FizzBuzz of 2? What should we get?
The number is 2.
Number is 2. What should we get if it's 3?
The number is fizz, or it says fizz.
It's fizz. Correct. Number 4. Oops, sorry.
Return.
4 is 4. Number 5.
Buzz.
Correct. Now, so we have covered almost everything except there's one case which we haven't covered. What is this case which is different and we didn't actually implement yet?
FizzBuzz.
It's FizzBuzz. So what number should give us FizzBuzz?
15.
15 number.
Correct. It has to be divisible by both. So what we do is, first of all, we test. We test 15 and we make sure that it actually breaks. Okay, it breaks because it's not what we want. We want FizzBuzz. So what do we need to do here to make sure that it does the right thing? Help me out here.
Is it number divided by 15 equal to 0?
and
Well, yeah, technically you're right about divided by 15, but it should be, it says sort of according to the exercise, if it's multiples of both 3 and 5, then print FizzBuzz. So technically you're right about 15, but I would express it in a
Can we use and?
The number.
You can use and, exactly.
So we can use this here.
How?
And then this as well in an if statement, and then say, and then use an and. So if the number is divisible by 3 and number is divisible by 5,
okay, exactly.
Then it brings out FizzBuzz because we have already declared it here.
So where
For 3 and here for 5.
Where do we do this logic?
We will do it here.
On top next to else if. Another else if.
Let's try that, yeah. Else if number.
Modular
This is not the
plus
final answer, but it will be close.
and number modulus of 0.
So it's the same thing as Ashwini said. Also, you could do this, but we will not do that now, just because to make it clear. Now, when this is true, we return what?
FizzBuzz.
Us.
Right, so we save that and we verify. Whoops, it didn't work. So why didn't it work? I already knew that. Well, let's find out. When we have 15, it says 15, result equals 15, and then is 15 divisible by 3? It says yes, and then it goes here.
This last statement, I think, should be the first statement. If it should be if number is first, we should check if it is divisible by 3 and
Correct.
5.
Correct. So there's actually many ways to do it. But let's say just for simplicity, yeah, I think we should have it at the beginning. So if this divisible by 3 and divisible by 5, then it's this. Then you have else if that is, and then else if it's divisible by 5, then. So that will also work. I think it will, right? Let's find out. Buzz. Now, I want to show you there are many ways to rearrange this thing. So first of all, we can do the following. You can say, so instead of doing initialization here, we can say result equals number, result equals fizz, and buzz. So it's kind of the same uniform. There's another way you can do this. You can use it without the result. Anybody want to help me with that? How do you do without result?
Else console.log of number.
No, there's no console logs here. You could do it another way.
You can change the result to return. So this will be return. This will be return.
You
This
do
will
this
be
return. 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 And then return. And when you do that, a couple of things become easier actually. Because when you do a return, you don't have to check about else anymore. This else goes away. This else goes away. And this else also goes away. So the code gets a lot shorter. Does this make sense?
Why is that?
Why is it getting shorter, or why does it work?
Yeah, why don't you have to use it else here?
Because already, you see, if you have satisfied this condition, you already returned, and when you return, you actually leave the function. So that means you don't have to check else anymore. When you're returning inside the if statement, you don't need to have else. Now it will be exactly the same. This will work too, but it will simplify things like that. What else can you do here? You have another thing you can do. You can say this. You can say if the number is divisible by 3, then return fizz. But actually inside that, if it's also divisible by 5, so now you have nested if, right? So instead of having this and number divisible by 3 and divisible by 5, you can do numbers divisible by 3. Already you're in here. And then, because it's divisible by 3, now you check the condition it's also divisible by 5, then you return that. That is also allowed. I'm just showing you like different variations of the solution here.
Yeah.
People get it?
Yeah, I get it. But
now, this is not my favorite solution. I don't like this because it's a little bit awkward. Why should I have it inside here and not inside there? So I actually prefer the older solution here. This is better.
Could someone maybe try and come up with a solution where, because right now our solution, the order of our if statements matters, but does someone have any ideas of what we could add to our conditionals to make it so that the order of our if statements wouldn't matter?
That's a good question. Do you have that? I don't.
Maybe in the second one, like when we are checking number is divisible, but sorry, Ridden.
Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe in the second time when we are checking number is modulus of 3 is equals to 0, we can give and there also, and not
Mhm.
divisible by 5, then
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Exactly.
You say number
Exactly.
and then not divisible by 5. Yeah, this could be done. So that way, let me think. Does that work? Let's find
It should
out.
work.
So let's say if we do fizz buzz of, well, first of all, 3 should work. Fizz. 5 should work. Fizz buzz. And finally, 15 should work. It is fizz buzz. Correct. So this works as well. Very nice. I would also sort of say here, I mean, like somebody said before, this is also gonna work. But the thing is, it's not so explicit because we want 3 and 5 in the picture. Now, I have just shown you all the different ways that you can, I would say basically for now, let's stick to one solution. But basically, this is a problem. There's many ways to solve it. Like, remember, you could do it with returns. You can do it with initializing a result here, and then you do else ifs. And then there's different ways to handle the conditionals and the ands. But we actually haven't finished the exercise because this is not what the exercise is saying. This is not the only thing that it's saying. So let me go back and show you what is the point of this. Sorry, I'm on another screen now. I got confused. So far we
Alex, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there any preferred way of doing this? Like you've used all ifs. So is this way a preferred way, or else if is a preferred way, or like it's just completely our choice?
That's a good question. You see, at this moment for me, this is my favorite solution that you're looking at. But it's not, I would not say this is better. It's just my personal preference. But what I will say is this. Definitely there's no console logs here. And console log is at the end. So notice that is definitely preferred. Number 2, I actually prefer, I mean, you can say let result equals whatever. You could do that, but I prefer early returns instead. I don't know, Braden, do you have an opinion about this? It's kind of open-ended.
Is your question specifically referring to either using exclusively if statements or using if, else, and else clauses?
Yeah, my question is like, which one is the preferred way? Only if or if else is a preferred way? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think that one that is a bit up for debate. I think there's no. Ultimately, I think that comes down to a style preference. So when I code at work, I think in the code I've written and the project currently, I don't think I've ever used an else if statement. I generally stick to if statements, and then I'll use an else statement occasionally, but I don't think I ever use an else if. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. I think it just comes down to personal preference and then the style that the project you're working on prefers, like the style that maybe your teammates have preferred. And I think the reason most people tend to prefer it, like purely if statements, is because when you read it, it reads in a very concrete way. So you're saying, like, for every clause, when we return something from it, we're saying explicitly, like, if, number modulus 3 equals 0 and number modulus 5 equals 0, return fizzbuzz. If, this, I don't know, I guess there's really no good reason about it. I think it ultimately comes down to personal preference. So if you prefer else if, then you're never going to lose points on that,
No, it's fine. I actually want to point out the following. So this thing here is called an early return. So that means that you are exiting the function already here. So that means you're not even looking at this code. If this condition is satisfied, this code is finished and nothing here gets executed, which is why I don't like this solution as much. So let me show you result equals number, and then you say result equals this, result equals that, and result equals that. And then you say return result. Now notice, in this scenario, when we go here, we are not finished. We still have to check about this if, we have to check about this if, so the logic gets more complicated. Maybe I missed something. When you do an early return, you're done with the function when you're done with the function. So I can rewind again. You are done here at this point. If the condition is satisfied, you know exactly. So that simplifies the logic. And this is a very common pattern programmers use, is this early return pattern. You will see it all over again. But I actually want, does that answer your question actually?
Yes, thank you, Alex and Braden. Thank you.
Perfect. What I wanted to get to, now we have just implemented this thing with 3 and 5, yeah? But the exercise has one more step. It says, make the two numbers into parameters. So I think what it's trying to say is, instead of 3 and 5, I hate that they put the word 5 in words here. It should be a number. Anyway, you see this one says, instead of 3 and 5, use 4 and 12. So how would we do that? You see? What would you guys do if instead of 3 and 5, you had to use 4 and 12? How would that even look? Anyone? Anyone? This is important. All right. Well, then I'll answer my own question. Thank you very much. What you want is this 3 and this 5 to be parameterized. So you say, I don't know, call it a fizz number or a buzz number, right? Let's just, for now, before we call it into a function, say const fizz number equals 3, const buzz number equals, buzz number equals 5, yeah? And then you say fizz number, buzz number, and what is this? 3, that's fizz number, buzz number. Okay, so we're not done yet. This was just to put, instead of 3 and 5, we use a variable. But what we really want is want to pass this variable in through here. So you say fizz number, buzz number, and not use these guys. And then what we want is we're going to say 3, 5. We give it a fizz number and a buzz number, right? So that's the function. Let me show you that this is exactly the same code as before, except we have a variable. Instead of 3 and 5, we pass it in from the outside. So what we can do here is, what do you think is going to happen when I call this function right here?
Fizz buzz, fizz buzz.
Wait, you said it twice? Or is it two people talking? I think it was two people talking. Yeah, the answer, of course, is fizz buzz. Okay, now, what if I do 15, 4, 6? Well,
fizz buzz,
54
and fizz.
So this number is coming in as 15. All right, let's check. What is number? So it's 15 modulo 4.
It doesn't work.
Not 0. And 15 modulo 6 is also not 0. So this will not be satisfied. Now we go here. 15 is not divisible by 4 or 6. So what's going to happen here is going to go through here, nothing. Go through here, nothing. Go through here, nothing. And we end up with 15.
Yes.
15. Correct. 20. What's going to happen here?
Fizz will come.
Buzz.
Oh, they have different opinions. Fizz number is 4. So if 20 is divisible by 4, we get fizz. Fizz. The answer is fizz. What about 30? Or, yeah.
Buzz them this time.
That's buzz.
Buzz.
And of course, if you take 24, which is both 4 and 6 divisible, the answer is fizz buzz, etc. But to get the point, I think the point of the exercise in the end was when you have those 3 and 5, instead of 3 and 5, we use fizz number and buzz number. And then when this number is divisible by those numbers, you get either fizz if it's divisible by the first, buzz if it's divisible by the second, and fizz buzz if it's divisible by both. And that's what this is for. And in the end of the day, we still haven't solved the final exercise because it says create a function that prints the number from 1 to 100. So that part we didn't do. But this part is really easy. So how do we do this part? This part is, well, we have now for every number, we have a result that we can get. So what do we do with the 100 numbers? This is not a trick question.
Maybe we use for loop.
For loop.
Exactly. For let I equals 0, I less than what?
100.
101.
Less than 100.
And then now you see we have this fizzbuzz function. So you say, well, we can do this right here.
Maybe here I less than 101 because it's 1 to 100.
Good observation. Yes, we could do that. So we could do from 1 to including 100.
Okay.
And then what do we do here? So obviously something has to change.
Maybe 24. If we change 24 by I.
Correct. I is the number you want to check. And then here, let's go back to 3 and 5 because those are the original values, right?
Yes.
And then, of course, here you're allowed to use, after you get the result.
Console.
Well, in the end, actually, let's do this console log result, yeah? So what's going to happen now is it's going to be a set of things, and it's going to show us if it's divisible by 3 or 5. I think it's going to be a very long output, so let's find out. Whoops, it even had some problem. The number is, oh, sorry, it's a result is not defined. Anybody could tell me the problem here?
Consider that is good, maybe.
Look, this result exists because we just defined it here. This result is outside the loop. So actually, we shouldn't have this. So let me actually, to make it a little bit nicer, we can have a list of things, right? So you say, well, we want to create an array, right? So let's create an array. And the result is going to be our array. Who wants to help me with that? We want an array of 100 elements.
So we use push, maybe.
We use push, but first we have to declare it.
So then we declare with zero length.
Yeah. So how do you do it? Let what? What do we?
Let's maybe result is equal to.
Let's call it array result.
Yeah.
Because it's different from this result.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
So okay, Then you give it the result. This result is okay. But instead of just logging it out, we want to say what?
There array result
Return array
push,
result.
push
not push.
at result.
Push result.
Push result. That's it. And then we say console log array result.
Array result, yes.
So now it will be much nicer. So we will see it as a list. Obviously, so you say 1, 2, fizz, that's 3, 4, buzz, that's 5, etc., etc., etc. And then fizz buzz is 14, fizz buzz is 15, etc. So you see, and if you notice here, if you see, there are six things in every row. This is by accident. That's how much space I have. But what you can find is this column is numbers divisible by 3. This column is numbers divisible by 3 also because it's 6. And then you see fizz everywhere except every fifth one. Fizz buzz here, fizz buzz here, fizz buzz here. Same as that. You see what I mean? And then the buzzes are distributed all over the place because there's no pattern to it. Yeah, so that's actually kind of how you approach it. So we actually solved the problem, but you see I've built it up a little bit one step at a time. And then remember, first you get the result, and then you sort of build it up so that you have more flexibility. So first you get a little bit one case, the second case. See if you're getting what you expect. And then after the result is what you're happy with, slowly you make it more flexible and more flexible. So I think that covers this exercise at least. Anybody have a comment or a question on this FizzBuzz exercise?
Alex,
Yeah.
will we use for loop above the if statement and use array dot push fizz buzz, array dot push fizz, array dot push buzz like that?
You mean here?
Yeah. If number divided by equals to 0, array dot push buzz like that.
Yeah, this is also okay. You could do that. You could do that. So you could put, you see this for loop could be inside this function.
This one.
That's another way to do it. But I think somehow this is a little bit cleaner because this is just for one number. And then here you have the whole thing for all. But you're absolutely right. This is allowed. And maybe if you're coming up with your own solution, this will also work. And instead of return, you do a push. The only difference is then you won't be able to... Okay, you know what? Let's actually do this. What you just suggested. Let's just do it right now. So we will put this for loop inside of the function here. Right? So instead of having give me buzz number, we can go give me fizz buzz array. And then we do this here. We start with this here. That's a bit messy right now, don't worry. I will fix it. Give me fizz buzz numbers, yes. Oh, I see. That's not... So I will do slowly the closing of that. Return array result. So what I think you're talking about is this. If, well, the number is actually I here. So let's say I. All right. And then instead of returning it, you can do
array dot push.
And then you say and finally that kind of works. I'd say I don't like it as much, but it's also valid. And of course, we don't return here. All right, something like that, right? Is that what you had in mind?
Maybe also if we take it out number from the argument, from the function argument.
Good idea. Yes, because it's not needed anymore.
Yeah.
And so if this and say array result equals, give me visbars array of 3 and 5.
Yes, like that.
However, we still have, actually now the code is not going to work. Can somebody tell me what the problem is with this?
If you want the number like else array result dot push of I, just a number.
Here.
Else result dot.
Oh, yes, actually that's not what I thought about, but this is also true.
Yeah.
This is also true, correct. So you say else array result push
dot.
I.
Yeah.
Let's do it like this, yeah? Okay, cool. Now, that is not the only thing that's wrong with this code. What else is wrong with this code?
There's no semicolon right after fizzbuzz.
Do we need to return array result?
That's already
push,
there.
right?
That is already there.
Mm-hmm.
But remember what I told you about early return. Before you had an early return, this is, by the way, in JavaScript, this is allowed, this is also allowed. So the semicolon is not a problem. But what is a problem is before we had a result return here. Like I told you, early return, and then you don't need an else if. But now, we don't have an early return. So when this executes, it doesn't exit the function, it continues. And then it will push again. Make sense?
Yes.
So it will be a very, very bad result, right? So what do we need to do here?
We need to write return statement.
Return statement in
No, forget return statement. We got rid of it. Now we're pushing to the array. So what do we need to do somewhere around here to fix the situation?
We should say if else.
Else if.
Yes. Else if.
This is what we need to do. So now, if this condition is satisfied, it doesn't check anything else. If this condition is satisfied, it doesn't check anything else. It just continues. But the thing is, you don't want to exit the function because you're inside the for loop now. You're inside the for loop, so you want to continue. You don't return. You only return the very, very end after all the numbers have been added up. And then, so this is also the reason. Sorry, who asked that question? About the array?
Actually, Alex, in my case, without using this push, without just putting the number in an array, I tried it before, so it works in this way. If we will not just to push to an array, yes, if you will have only list of numbers, then it works this way. But I do not check if.
What do you mean instead of pushing, you did what?
Just like, for example, straight with a question on the just from the task, it works. I tried it, but
what do you mean it works? Sorry, what are you talking about? What is it?
What I mean is just
you can draw on it. You know, you have the pencil.
Yeah. What I mean is just if I am to print the list of the numbers with fizz and puts. It works, but I did not try with an array result.
Okay, well, you should try it also. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So I actually prefer the previous solution more because here you're doing two things. Here you're doing the for loop and you're doing the conditional. In the previous solution, I had the for loop outside and then we did some early returns, so it was much shorter. But it is also allowed, so we are doing it like this. Yeah, I think that's kind of it for this exercise. Any more questions on this? This is quite a lot. Okay, so we are, I guess, moving on to the next one. Do we have any sort of areas that you guys think that we haven't covered? We don't have to go through the whole like there's a lot of exercises here, and yeah, we cannot finish them all here and now, but you should definitely go and do this as a homework. All of these, except this one here, is very complicated, but it's really fun. Tic-tac-toe could be fun for you guys to do. So, any concepts like arrays, functions? Any questions on those?
Alex, I have a doubt. It's about declaring an array of objects. Can you tell us which is the best way of declaring an array of objects?
An array of objects. Okay. Oof. So this is where it's a very good question, and let me just see if I'm recording this because I hope this is it's the recording. So an array of objects. So how am I doing this? The point is, so what I don't like in JavaScript is that you can do anything you want. So for example, I say, we just start with that, right? And then you say my array of 1 equals 2, and then you say name, Alex, occupation, programmer, and then which, that's actually allowed, and then you can do console log. I'm telling you what not to do, by the way, just so you know. Array, okay? So this here, I will get rid of all the other code, and I show you bad code. This is bad code. This is because JavaScript sucks, so that's why I'm teaching you how not to do it. So what that happened here, you see, is it created at index 0 an empty item, and then it added this. So that's a bit painful to look at, right? Basically, it should say, hey, you're trying to add at an index where nothing exists, and then it should throw an error, but it doesn't do that. Now, if I do, let's say, I don't know, my array 3 equals, my array 0 equals name, Bill Gates, occupation, millionaire. Is billionaire or is it trillionaire? Let's say trillionaire. Alright. And then you will have an array of this stuff, right? So, what is your question says, what is a good way to do this? And the hard part about it is you're allowed to do it in any way you want. So for example, I could do like hello world here. And then that's also allowed, right? So because you have an array, and the first thing in the array is this object, and the second thing is the array is the string, and you say, I don't know, 55. You could do that. This is JavaScript. Bad idea. That's all sorts of creates all sorts of confusion. So I think that the way that I would sort of avoid this a little bit is we have an array of objects, Is it, sorry, what's the question about array of objects or object of arrays?
Array of objects.
Array of objects. I always, well, let's just say, I always initialize arrays like this. That just gives me a clarity in the code that it is an empty array. And then you say, item equals, I don't know, key 1. I'm trying to think. Depend on what your structure, basically your object could be anything, right? So if you have a specific structure for an object, let's say, okay, we have an exercise where we had a specific structure for an object, like this, right? Character, no, let's go up again. We have this is a good example, right? So you say score equals 3, yeah. So this is our object.
Maybe while you're typing out your example, Alex, I just have a question regarding the question about declaring arrays of objects. When you say what is the best way to declare an array of objects, when you've been working with arrays of objects, what seems the most confusing about trying to understand how it would be best to declare it?
There was an exercise in the homework where the value of the key was like it was the ID, like it said ID, and that remained constant. Like ID we could have given, but every time we were passing different values in that. So I was getting confused, like how to just keep the key, like how do we give the keyword and then just keep on passing values, and like the keyword was constant. So that is a bit confusing. Like here we have a value also associated with that, but in the homework we were passing on the values. So like the score is score, but 3 was changing, like the score was changing every time. So do you get me? I mean,
are you saying no, I actually don't get.
So I think I might understand. Yeah. So what you're saying is the part that's confusing is maybe you can point me to which question in the homework so I can pull it up as well. But is it that the key remains constant and then the value's changing?
Yes.
And how do you handle an object when the key doesn't change but the value changes?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Do you want to do a screen share yourself, Braden, or how do you?
Sure, I can do that.
Yeah, it's probably easier.
Let me know when you stop sharing, and then I can try and take over.
Yeah, I'm just gonna see because I'm continuing to record, and actually, do you want to do a recording on your side? I'll stop recording on this side. It's confusing otherwise.